You know, this is an era of spectacular progress, particularly in bringing the good things of life to more and more people.
And from their talks was forged a map for the path to freedom, a compact for the future, for the future, for the future. A map for the path to freedom.
Who gives you $7,000 worth of free wood? It's crazy.
Legit walnut flooring.
And did I tell you about the guy that came and cleaned our trash out, and then the pizza and all that stuff?
I heard about the pizza.
So this guy, he literally makes supercomputers for the government. He just moved to Reading randomly with his family.
That is the craziest job title.
He's always in DC. He's constantly traveling. And he sees me walk in. He's like, oh, he knew there was like a new guy moving in to the space, or some new people taking over the space. And he comes up and he's like, hey man, I just wanted to say hi. I'm Aaron from next door, And he goes, and Thunderbird had left a bunch of trash on the, and they let me know it wasn't like they were just being irresponsible. It was like, dude, the dumpster was locked up, and so sorry. But it was like 12 or 13 trips to it felt like it must have been.
Oh my goodness.
And he comes up and he goes, man, I've been challenged lately to invest in the commodity that I think I don't have, which is time. And I don't have any time. He goes, but I'm going to take your trash out for you.
Come on.
And I'm like, what? And he's like, I have the key to the dumpster. I'm just going to take it out. Literally just all by himself. And I'm like, what? And I had to go, or I would have helped him. I was like, man, you don't have to do that. Then the next night, we're here with the kids cleaning up, just moving stuff in, and they were bugging me to get pizza. And they're like, Dad, we want pizza, order pizza now. And I'm like, dude, no, we gotta work. We don't have time. It's not gonna get here in time. We don't have any money.
Yeah.
Like, just relax. And I go out to my car to get one last load to bring in, and this Mercedes rolls up right behind me. I was like, whoa. And then out of the car rolls the like tinted dark windows, just rolls down, and this pizza box comes out of the car.
So crazy.
And he goes, hey, this one felt like, I don't know if he said God, or he's like, hey man, I got you a pizza. And I was like, are you kidding me? My kids were just like haggling me to get pizza. And he's like, yeah, I knew you were the new guy. And it was like 8:30 at night. It was like,
so this is not like even dinner
yeah.
time.
No,
random.
It was like after dinner, kids wanting to get like a snack. And he comes and hands me this pizza from Mosaic, like a nice restaurant too.
What?
Yeah.
Now we're talking some Papa John's, like,
No.
yeah.
And I was like, what? And then he was from the next door studio. He was like, hey man, just welcome to the studio, welcome to the space.
So this isn't the same guy as the supercomputer guy?
This is
another
guy that works in the office next to him.
What in the world?
I know. And then he comes and gives me like 3 extra sound panels.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we used to do some studio work in here. You need any more sound panels? I'm like, yeah.
So good.
So funny.
So we're ready. Let's just cruise right in. On top of that, so this is your space. Eric Allen, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Chris.
This is your beautiful brick wall, and there's a lot here.
Well, I wish it was mine.
Well, it's.
I'm here for a time.
Yes. It's yours to do what you wish at the moment, and
yes,
it's good.
It's amazing.
So
yeah,
tell me. So you're pastor with Bethel Music. We're gonna talk about Bethel Music. Talk about your history and some of who you are. But this space is a significant breakthrough. So tell us about the space.
Yeah, I think 6 or 7 months ago, I was good friends with the guys that were in here previously, and always was sort of enamored with location downtown.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it, because I'd been in for different projects, and so 6 or 7 months ago, I just told the guys that were in here, I was like, man, if you guys ever leave, and they weren't planning on leaving, it's like, just let me know.
Yeah.
I'd love to, chat about taking over that lease.
Totally.
Yeah, and then sure enough, about 2 months ago, they were like, yeah, we're going. And they came to me personally, kind of ahead of the curve before anyone knew about it, and basically just laid the the connection in the road with the landlord to have a great tenant, and he's like, they had a great relationship with them, and said, hey, I've got someone that you just need to let take over the rent, and it'll be seamless. And unbeknownst to me, I mean, obviously it's a great space, great location, but there was a line of people wanting to be in here.
They keep popping up,
and so it just sort of like got just landed in my lap, you know. And it's, you know, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, you know, put into the place
already
to make it functional as a studio. So we're getting to come in and and benefit from that.
Wow.
So it's kind of amazing. Like, you know, it's actually an example of they came in, sowed, bore fruit, and then I'm getting to come in and benefit from their fruit of what they already did and take it further.
And build on top of it. So this is going to be a recording studio, a collaborative music creativity space. You've been running really hard for the last 4 or 5 years on fathering artists.
Right.
Fathering young artists in creativity and music. You're a musician yourself. You have your own album. Shout out Amber Nation.
Thank you.
What's your album's title again?
The album is called Silver Screen, our first
Screen.
album. Yeah, and then we have a new single out called Tunnel Vision that we released in October. Yeah.
Why haven't I heard that yet? I need to get on that. We'll link that up.
Awesome, thanks.
That's legit. Even, it'd be fun, maybe we'll play some.
Awesome.
In the intro, maybe even right now, as we're having this lovely moment. Just little background music. So you've been really running after this thing of fathering artists, like faithfully. And I've gotten to, so much history. Oh my gosh. When I was in second year school of ministry, probably 6 years ago now, you graciously met with coffee for me. You were a Revival Group pastor at that point in this Bethel School of Ministry. We met for coffee, and you were like, dude, why don't you don't have family here? You don't know what healthy family is like. Why don't you just come hang out with my family? And adopted me into your family, and I would come over almost weekly and hang out with your kids and watch the kids and just kind of do life and help out with stuff around the house, and just this beautiful season of like God really developing me as a young man, and transitioning years all the way through to like you and Lauren did Bethany and my wedding up in Oregon a year and a half ago. Like you have been a significant father in my life. So many, like you've always been there through like really tough stuff I've walked through like just joyous moments, all these different things. So it's fun, the full circle-ness of this moment. And like, I mean, Bethany and I being in Redding with you guys for this weekend and laying in bed, being like, we miss the Allens. Like,
awesome.
This is actually really sad. Like, we really want it. Like, it's bittersweet because we feel like we've left something so significant. Like, we've left something beautiful and full and vibrant. And obviously, you know, the Lord has us in Sacramento for the time being. But yeah, so much history. And tell me some of your journey. Like, you're currently the pastor for Bethel Music. Is that the correct title?
Yeah,
like,
I vowed to. I remember being in my room when I was 10 or 11, and I was into the mirror really, really close. Have you ever gotten into a mirror like super close?
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's like, you just see a whole nother part of yourself. So that's a side weird note. But I remember I was like 10 or 11, I was looking in the mirror and I was just like having a moment, and I vowed, I was like, I will never be a pastor. My dad was a pastor, and he was amazing.
I didn't know that, Eric.
Yeah, I'm a PK. I didn't despise it.
PKs unite. Give me some.
Oh yeah, come on, let's do this. So I loved it, and my dad was an inspiration to me. So it wasn't like I had a bitter taste in my mouth about the church or being a pastor necessarily. It was just like, I did not want to
That's
do
not
that.
your gig. Yeah.
No, I was like, I'm an athlete. I'm a creative.
Yeah.
I want to do those
You're
things.
going there.
And I am, and I did. But it's funny, God snuck the pastor thing kind of around the back door through creativity. And I remember someone coming up to me in the first year of BSSM when I went to school. Side note, I did that really late later in my life. You know,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's amazing the types of people and the demographic the school attracts.
Right.
But I was 35 and had a career 14 years, making more money than I'd ever made, 4 kids at the time, and had come up to School of Worship and I just knew God rocked me. And
Wow.
I'd never made just rash, like opportunistic or quick decisions.
Yeah.
I had been established,
Yeah.
but I just knew I was supposed to move. And once I got up here, I thought I was like, man, when people hear the story of what I left and what I'm doing, they'll be so inspired and rocked. And then I realized, everyone's left everything. I'm not special at all. This place just attracts crazy people who decide to abandon everything for Jesus.
Yes.
So, but I came up and was
What year was this?
in 2009 I did School of Worship.
Okay.
And then 2010 I came up.
Yeah.
But I was in first year, I believe, and someone came up to me and said, "You're such a father." And then multiple people after that, it was just like a barrage and a tidal wave of father words. And I was like, "Get away from me, you're Satan." I'm like, I'm a cool, hip dad that loves music and is gonna rock your face off. That's who I am.
Yes.
I'm not a father, get away from me. But all of a sudden, I think it was, somewhere down the line of those words, I was in worship, and God, He just showed me. He just simply said to me in my spirit, "You've been a father your whole life."
Yeah.
And it wasn't an age thing necessarily.
Yeah.
It was a
Position of the heart thing.
It's like you've been fathering people your whole life.
Come on.
And even your friends. It's just like this teaching and cultivating, and
Yeah.
even hearing you say like, I came over and you've impacted me as a father, or you pulled me in. It's
Right.
like, it's funny, even the way I do my class, my AMT in the school, or this whole dream of having an artist development kind of arm in the city, it really stems from just doing life. Like structure is good, curriculum is great,
Right.
and I'm doing all those things.
Right.
But really, it's, even my AMT, it's more of like a living room
Yeah.
where I just do that.
Yeah.
I just create an atmosphere of safety, or,
So good.
or championing someone, or identifying something, or highlighting someone, or, making someone risk, and then modeling it myself. And so it's really like a living room setting where you just, you don't teach it, you demonstrate it. And
So good.
and so
Yes.
more's caught than taught.
Yes.
But I'm getting better at the
other side.
the teaching part of it, and,
Yeah.
and structuring and packaging it. Because if you don't articulate things, if you don't actually put it into something that they can really grab a handle, if they're not in that course, then you're limited. But yeah,
That's amazing. So you pastored for how many years in the school? After you got the barrage of father words, it came into fulfillment.
so I
Well,
finished-
it was always in fulfillment, but you had an opportunity to really walk that out as a Bethel pastor.
yeah. I was after second years, I just began pastoring for 3 years.
For 3
So-
years, and then Bethel Music sucked you into their world, which when did you start doing music?
Well, I'd done music since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So played drums in church and had bands and wrote terrible songs, that kind of thing, since I was super young. And led worship as a teenager, adult,
Okay.
and but yeah. So I'd kind of done it on the side for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, becoming a pastor was kind of weird because I remember 11 years old bowing into the mirror. I would never do that. So,
I love that you were really close too.
I know.
You like really meant it.
It was almost like I was telling my soul, you better not, don't even think about this. Remember this moment, because I can see the pores of your nose right now. Like, you better not. So when Gabe invited me to be a pastor, I remember saying no at first. I was like, no. I mean, and that's kind of like in this world, if you don't know this kind of, environment, it's when you're in the school, it's an honor to be, a pastor, and it's a
really revered, respected position.
I think so. And so, but for me, it was like putting a nail into my eyeball. Like, I was like, no, I won't do this.
Wow.
And I remember,
strong words.
I know. So I remember telling Gabe no at first, or like, man, I'm going to think about it. And then I had like a 2-week period or so when I had to get back to Gabe. And this is a crazy story because I wanted to be doing something in creativity. I wanted to be doing something in, connected to cultivating artists. And I at the time was, friends with Joel Taylor, who's the CEO of Bethel Music, and was thinking maybe there's an inroad there. Jeremy Riddle was overseeing worship department, connecting with him. Mm-hmm. I had established some relationship with Brian and Jen, so I was hoping there, just closed door. They loved me, but there just wasn't any opportunity.
Yeah.
And everything, every person, every situation was pointing back toward becoming a pastor. So long story short, I had a couple weeks, and I was just, obviously talking with Lauren and going to the Lord. And Jason Valentin, he doesn't even remember saying this to me, but he said, Eric, you're the missing puzzle piece of the second-year team. And I kind of took it and didn't even think about it. Well, on like the last day before I needed to get back to Gabe, I had been reading Psalm 121 that whole time of just like this security in God. He has your back.
Yeah.
You don't worry.
Yeah.
And my kids, side note, had been doing a puzzle on the kitchen table, Star Wars puzzle. We were going to get it framed. In fact, we have it framed in their room. And they were missing the center puzzle piece for like 3 weeks. And couldn't find it anywhere. And this was in the kitchen on the other end of the house from my room.
Yeah.
So I have one more day to get back to Gabe. I'm in my room, and I go to grab my Bible, which is always on my side table in the drawer. Mm-hmm. I had this Bible for 15, 20 years. Yeah. And it's not there. I can't find it anywhere. I'm like, that's so weird. I was going to go on the back porch and have a quiet time and kind of like, my last, God, you're going to speak to me and tell me.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't find it. There's a bookshelf in my room, and I go, which we never even like really utilize it. It's more storage than anything. There's a row of books. I have to remove that row of books, go behind and get an old NIV college Bible with a vinyl case that zips, if that paints a picture for you. Dust all over it. Unzip this thing, dust it off, go on the back porch. And so I'm praying, I'm interceding, I'm listening to God, and I keep hearing him say, hey, just open your Bible. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that, because that was like the typical thing, like flop your Bible open and God's going to speak to you. And I was like, no, I'm not
Bible
gonna do that.
roulette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, he did that multiple times. I'm like, okay. So I open the Bible, and boop, there's the puzzle piece from my kids' puzzle that we'd been missing, which is on the other end of the house. This is in a zipped up vinyl Bible.
Gosh, knowing your family now, that is so deep.
And it was on Psalm 121.
Oh, that is so supernatural.
And I just was like, this is a crazy miracle. Like, what in the world? And I just read through Psalm 121, the puzzle piece. I went, and it was the quickest quiet time I've ever had because I didn't need to do anything else. So I went and took the puzzle piece, plopped it in the puzzle, shut my Bible, called Gabe, and said, I'm in.
Wow.
And then those 3 years prepared me. They crafted messages in me, pulled out the things that I'm using now when I'm on the road with Bethel Music and I'm teaching in the breakouts, or I'm creating curriculum for, the this entrepreneurial arm that I want to have in the city. So I love what I'm doing with Bethel Music. I'm 2 feet in, and but it's just a sort of a just a being diversified and having an entrepreneurial sort of mindset and connection into the city of Reading.
Yeah, which is really, that piece is really significant, because I think we were talking about this in the car, just the vision and the passion in specifically the school of ministry, and for even just creatives in the city who really, I think there's a real need for the on-ramp to connecting into culture, like connecting in, like what do you do with all that passion and vision and creativity? This space is really like going to be an on-ramp, and specifically with Black Box, which is the evening events you've been hosting.
Once a month live event.
Live events. Quick, like, give me a quick 2-minute.
Yeah, so Black
thing
Box.
On Black Box.
I mean, there's not much to do in Reading.
Yeah.
And I love being in an atmosphere of creativity. So I love going to shows. I love, being in band rehearsals. I love recording in a studio. I just love being in where there's those moments where you're like, yes, this is transcending, whether it's worship, connected to music, where you just feel God.
Yes.
You feel the presence. You feel like anything's possible.
Yeah.
So it's once a month. It's we vet out Black Box Soundstage is what it's called on the Instagram handle. But we vet out all of the open mic slots basically that we'll sing one song, and then we plug in featured artists.
Okay.
2 to 3 featured artists that sing.
Okay.
They do a full set.
Okay.
And it's been amazing. So we're dreaming. We're wanting to record some of those Black Box artists. We're wanting to, have YouTube channel and really, it's funny. Someone was in Dallas recently talking to a friend that doesn't even know me, and they're like, they've heard about Black Box. It's crazy because there's venues everywhere around the world, but there's something unique about this. You walk in and it's vibey and it feels like a really safe place. It's almost like the spiritual atmosphere, and it's not Christian, it's not churchy, it's kingdom.
Yeah.
It's life, it's alive, it's vibrant, it's creative, it's cool. And you just feel that sense of like safety, security, anyone can happen.
Wow. Wow.
So it feels different, and I want to kind of transport that via the videos, via YouTube, and almost create this feeling in other people that see it. It's like anything that I do, like whether it's my own music, because sometimes you can watch something or listen to something, and almost even the spirit connected to the music can make you almost feel like I could never do that.
Yeah.
That's too good. And I'm not saying that artist is putting that off. I'm saying, I don't know. I think there's something in even the foundation of the spiritual side of what I want to do, that whatever I do would inspire someone to feel like they could do it and could do it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love how, I think it was Dan Fairley recently, someone said, and I love it because it's the way I think. Like, I'm not going through a midlife crisis because I'm doing my own band. I'm not like, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I'm doing it because I love it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they have my ceiling's your floor. I'm like, yeah, but I'm on an elevator.
Right. I'm still building my ceiling.
You better keep going.
Oh, yeah.
And I want you to be above me, but I'm going to keep moving too.
Totally.
And that's the way I deal with my kids, with anyone that I'm fathering. So it's, or cultivating is, I want to be doing it myself too.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's incredible. Back to the puzzle piece story. Do you feel like, because your kids are incredible creatives, incredible musicians, leading worship at Bethel Music Kids, that's the right?
They started as Bethel Music Kids.
Bethel Music Kids, and now which is literally like an album and like a movement in and of itself.
Yeah. hip hop dance videos and
Yes.
choreography, and
Yes.
and that transitioned into what's now called Bright Ones.
Bright Ones, yes.
And they released an album that got a Dove Award. Both of those albums got Dove Awards. Crazy.
My gosh.
And it's all like homegrown Reading kids, and
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Like these are kids that I like grew up, or well, young in the Lord, or being like fresh in Reading, would like babysit
Yeah.
at night. Like your kids, like babysit, do children's ministry with, like just running around crazy, like misbehaving all the time, you know, just kids, you know. And it's incredible to see how like God's using them, but like the scope and reach and influence that, I mean, your kids specifically have is kind of mind-blowing. Bethany will like look at each other and be like,
Yeah.
Eric Allen's kids are famous. We know them. Like,
Oh, and they let me know that every once in a while too. Like
we were
hey,
joking.
Dad.
We
They're
were
super
joking.
humble.
Remember the GoFundMe?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's just, like, where did that come from?
I think. Well, was that about Peyton needing money for a ministry trip or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he posted something on his Instagram or whatever and got like $500 in like 30 minutes, and Sydney was so mad. But someone offered him $500 for his sweatshirt that he has in the Build My Life video the other day, and I'm like, no, you're not selling that stupid sweatshirt. But yeah, no, it's crazy. It's sort of just like, I think the challenge is you always want to be doing what you love
Yeah.
to do, that you're just passionate about, and you always want to have influence, right?
Yeah.
But yet you also don't want to be pining for anything or performing, or it's
not
that
about
tension
that.
of really being confident and passionate and and intentional,
Yeah.
and expecting great things for yourself and what you're doing,
Yeah.
but also completely connected to you're nothing without God. I'm not doing
Fully
it.
dependent on grace.
Yeah, I'm not doing it for the blessing, like
Yeah.
Cody Carnes' new song, and I'm just doing it because you don't owe me anything,
Wow.
because I'm yours. And so that tension, and that's what I want for my kids, and that's what they're already modeling. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of crazy,
It is amazing.
but they're impact, and they've got that movie coming out April 22nd. Bright Ones releases in 700 theaters across
Wow.
the U.S.
Okay.
It's gonna be amazing.
Which we've seen a preview for.
Yeah.
Super pumped about that. So back to the puzzle piece story. When I hear that, I didn't know that story. When I hear that, I feel like that was almost a prophetic word about you stepping into a pastoral role, was like a puzzle piece to complete a picture for your kids.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
would you agree?
Oh, completely. And, going back to literally, it wasn't like fluffy God clouds of, oh, this is easy. It was literally a knife into my dreams.
Wow.
To become a pastor,
to be
I was like,
pastoring.
I'm dying to my dreams, is what it felt like. But also the beauty and almost like serenity of what happens when you actually do fully, completely surrender. It's that weirdest thing of like, I feel like I'm gonna die, but I also feel like I'm exactly where I need to be.
Wow.
And so, yeah, for me, it was like, no, I had dreams of still producing music and connected to arts and creativity. And I didn't realize that what he was doing was setting me up to be connected to creativity in exponential levels than I ever would have gotten if I had gotten it when I thought I wanted it.
Wow.
Like if you live your life and you always get if you only got what you think you want, you would never be where you really should be. It's
100%.
and it's not God being cynical. It's just this trust thing that He actually has the plan.
Wow.
We have these prophetic words. Let's say the prophetic word is whatever it is that you're just connected to, and then you're right here, and then things start happening. You're like connecting the dots, and you're getting closer, and you're getting excited because you're like, oh God, you're so faithful and you're so true.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the dots start connecting this way, And you're like, God, you suck. You're terrible. You're the worst. This isn't true. And you're like, and that's when the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. Will you trust? Is surrender real in your life?
And then what you don't see is there's a portal down here that in one place.
A dot-to-dot portal.
And
that's awesome.
And he sees outside of space and time. He's not linear. And
Oh,
we're
that is
looking for the
such
signs
a
of,
good word.
oh, I'm moving toward that prophetic word in my life. I'm like, no, don't look with your eyes.
Wow.
Look with your spirit.
Wow.
Hindsight 2020 is beautiful. Like when you go through that, like I want to steward and have insight 2020.
Wow.
Like what's inside of me, I see clearly because I'm connected to the Spirit of God, and instead of just the circumstances.
Wow.
And then when that happens, it's like, oh, I'm going backwards. That's perfect.
Wow.
Because I know I'm in line with what He wants to do if I'm connected in my spirit.
Incredible. I just heard T.D. Jakes share some. It's not exactly that. I've never heard an articulation like that. It's so helpful. T.D. Jakes shared he was sitting down with his son a few years back, who was just like kind of dropped out of college because he thought it was, he's going after something and then realized like this isn't what I want to be doing. He's getting older, and he is going to be moving out again, taking another course, going after a whole different vocation. And he's talking with his dad, and he's vulnerably like, Dad, I don't know, like, I'm going after this thing, but what if it's not the thing? Like, what if this isn't it? And his dad looks at him, TD looks at him and says, son, even if it's not the thing, it'll be the thing on the way to the thing.
Right.
And that principle of, I feel like we get so locked down, stuck and like stymied in trying to get the thing, like get that final prophetic vision and these significant, dreams and desires, which the Lord really has put in our hearts. But it's not linear. Like the journey getting there is not the mind of man. It's not of our own accord. And God's way of promotion is often, it's so backwards. It's not one step to the other, and it doesn't logically make sense so often.
I think we miss out on the enjoyment of life, to be honest.
Yeah.
The peace.
Yeah.
The connectedness to just living in the moment. Hopes and dreams of a future season are beautiful. Like vision is imperative for leaders. We have to cast that. We have to be seeing into the future. And depending on your personality, you live maybe more in that or not. Memories and recollection of past seasons is beautiful too. But if either of those is trumping the now, I feel like we miss the abiding connection to God. The now's this air I'm breathing, this table that I'm sitting at with Curtis Roberts. Like, no, this is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
And when you live
This
that
moment.
way, it's like, I think you can go through anything. I had an encounter. I was a pastor in the school. I had a student tell me that I wasn't doing a good job, that this isn't what they signed up for. This isn't what they paid for. You're not doing a good job leading. You're not sensing what the group needs. Kind of crazy.
That's deep stuff.
And it in a pit in my stomach. And then I found myself, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I'm like, peacemaker. And so I find myself being in revival group now, aware of that person, aware of what I think they would want to have for weeks. And just peace had gone.
Wow.
And it was in that moment of challenge, of conflict, of friction is where you really find out who you are and if you're really connected to God.
Jeez.
Not just when things are going good.
Yeah.
And it was rocking me because I'm like, man, no, I felt like I was doing a good job. I felt like the truth about me was one thing, but what the enemy was trying to say, which was affecting me big time, was that no, you're not doing a good job. In fact, you're terrible.
Wow.
And so I had an encounter. I was sitting in my office before revival group, and I was just like, God, I needed to practice what I preach. Like, I'm going to connect to you. I'm my own idea. I'm not my own idea. I'm your idea.
Yes.
There's nothing that can steal my future. There's nothing that can take me out of your purposes and plans. And I began to declare that and think that way. And I closed my eyes and on my white futon from Walmart because that's all pastors can afford.
In your office?
In my office. I closed my eyes. And I had been in a Spirit-filled church my whole life, but this is probably one of the most radical encounters I think I'd ever had. I didn't fall out as a kid, even though people were getting prayed for and falling. I just never had completely believed in the supernatural, but it didn't have myself those encounters. And all of a sudden I close my eyes and I get hit with this force from the right side of my body. And I don't open my eyes. And I don't know what you would call it. It was just an encounter. But it felt like it was maybe 45 minutes to an hour long, how I would describe the feeling.
Whoa.
But when I came out, it was like literally like 2 minutes.
Wow.
But anyway, the gist of it is I was in this lake and I was drowning and I was going under. Something was like pulling me under. It was like a bad dream where you can't run fast enough or you're falling, that feeling. And I kept getting pulled under and drowning. And all of a sudden from the edge of the lake, this dock just jetted out supernaturally. And I was in the water and looking up to the dock, and up on the dock appeared this kind of like glory oval. And I knew it was God, and it was just sort of reverberating, glowing ball of glory. And I'm getting pulled down and catching my breath going under, and all of a sudden my dad's face shows up inside the glory egg. And I know he's good, and I know he loves me, and I know he's trustworthy, but yet I'm still drowning.
Wow.
And I knew it was like my last time, and I got pulled down, and I was going to come up one more time, and if I didn't, I was over.
That was it.
And I knew I had this feeling, I knew I was going to reach my hand up, and God was going to grab me, and it was my dad. And so, sure enough, I come out of the water, and I reach my hand up, and this hand comes out of the glory cloud and passes my hand and puts his hand on my head and pushes me gently under the water, presses me down under. And I'm like freaking out, angry, but I never took my eyes off. And as I'm going down, taking in water, I'm still like, I declare in my spirit, I'm like, but I know you're good.
Whoa.
I know you're faithful, like. And it was in the moment of like, even when things don't feel good, or I don't think that this is for me, I don't think I'm supposed to drown. I don't think God wants me to drown. But he sees outside of time and space, and he sees outside of the way we see. And as soon as I took in water and I declared you're trustworthy, I began to breathe underwater. And I didn't realize, the thing I think I want to be taken, the thing I think God wants to deliver me from, that suddenly he actually wanted me to be in. And as I stayed in and began to breathe, I kept looking around under the water, and there was a treasure over here, and there was someone that was drowning over here that he wanted me to rescue. And I was like, and I was like, he didn't want me to stay there, but he wanted me to be there. And if I was with him, I can breathe underwater. I can walk on fire. I can fly. I can jump off a cliff and be okay if I'm with him. And so am I keeping my eye and my attention in the spirit, or am I keeping my eyes and attention on what I think it looks like in my current situation? And that marked me. And what was crazy is I knew that was what my revival group needed that day. Wow. And then I went into that, and I was like, hey, in James, when it talks about consider it pure joy when you encounter the sufferings. And what happened in that revival group was powerful. And that person who was questioning me, that was what he was doing in his. That was the work God was doing in his heart as well.
Wow.
It was like, hey, that thing you think you want to get pulled out of.
Wow.
No, he wants you to just be with him in it.
Oh my gosh.
And so that marked me. And that's that example of like that abiding with him and not wanting to be somewhere else, not wanting to go too fast. It's like, not wanting to accelerate or change. You're like, no. If I'm with God, I can do anything. I can be anywhere. And
Wow. The simplicity and power of trust, and trusting the character and nature of God in the face of whatever you're going through. And it's honestly bothered me for so many years how the word like trust God, brother, has gotten so Christianized and like
watered
down, and it's just kind of become this thing. But there's no like, trust is practical faith, and we're saved by grace through faith. So it's the only way we experience and know him and like do well in this thing called life and communion with the Lord is actually through the door of trust and faith. And there you meet the person of grace. And I love that picture, because it's when the heart is positioned and rooted, choosing, not because it's easy, but when you choose to, like, in my case, 5-6 years of anxiety, crippling depression, panic attacks on medication at one point, which you and Lauren, your wife, walked me through, held my hand through that whole season. You know, I can't see anything but that. But not giving up, continuing through, and it's as if that heart position of trust will give you the ability to breathe where no one can breathe. Yeah. You'll be able to survive, not just survive, but you can breathe in an atmosphere that is impossible. Yep. That's Mars. That is a vacuum. Yep. That is underwater. Yep. Which is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yep. Like, boom, fiery furnace, heated 7 times hotter, killing people that are just in close proximity. They stand in it, choose not to bow, choose to trust. And they're standing in the fire. Jesus shows up in the fire, doesn't put out the fire. That's the thing that always blows me away, is Jesus didn't show up with a big fire extinguisher, just, you know, he did, but he showed up with them in the fire as Lord over the fire. And not a hair on their head. They didn't even come out smelling like fire, and the only thing that burnt was what bound them. And like, there's so much there that I don't know that these types of things can be taught through words. Mm-hmm. I think it has to be experienced. Yeah. Like, it has to be that the person that's listening to this, the Lord takes that person on an experiential journey. Yeah. I think to actually...
Yeah, I think it's working out your faith.
Yeah.
You know, James talks about an unbelieving man should expect nothing from God.
Yeah.
And when you read that scripture, you're like, oh, God, that's me. And it's like, he's not talking about losing your salvation. He's talking about when you're operating from unbelief, you shouldn't expect anything from God. And so it's that practice of operating in belief, even when circumstances aren't lining up or you don't want to choose to believe. And the relationship that's built with the Father when you stay in belief is what he's looking for. He wants an army of people that he really can trust. They're not going to waffle and be like chaff in the wind. And that's when the shalom of God comes in and changes you. Yeah. I was in England on a mission trip, and they had an influx of Afghan believers come into this one area of Leicester, England. They were, the pastors had been discipling them, and they came across the scripture talking about shalom. I can't remember where it was, the reference, but one of the Afghan women stopped him and was like, whoa, she was having kind of revelation, and she was like, man, that makes so much sense. And she began to unpack what that word meant in her particular dialect of her Afghan language. And they have pictures associated with words. And the 5 pictures that were associated with shalom were fire, Jesus, dismantling, tearing down, completely all chaos. The fire of Jesus that dismantles chaos, all chaos. And it's not just this passive thing. It's a proactive, offensive pursuit of Jesus to eradicate chaos in your world. It's not just...
She's a Muslim?
She had become a believer.
Was a Muslim, had become a believer,
Yes.
and she had context for what this word
because that word in her
meant.
language had pictures associated with literally Jesus, the fire of Jesus that dismantles all chaos. And for me, I'm like, oh man, that's what happens when you walk in belief. When you walk in belief, he works on your behalf. To take away chaos.
Yeah.
And so
It runs so deep. Wow.
And so where are those fingers still clutching on to something where you're not? How many people are experiencing the lack of peace because they haven't completely surrendered? And so it's and Jesus wasn't just nice.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when someone's, and you want to have compassion, of course.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are just going to go through a hard thing and you just need to shut up and be there with them.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But there's some times where it's like, you need to challenge people. Like, hey, maybe you're not experiencing peace because you haven't let go.
100%.
And you're not operating in belief.
100%.
You're operating in unbelief if you really peel back the layers.
Yes.
So.
To tag off of that, something that I so struggled with is in my journey of, trust is every day, still moments of of anxiety and moments of like, oh, where'd my trust go? Like, where did I lose my peace? Something I so struggled with and it actually took me years to learn of like, I had an internal awareness of like, I'm operating in unbelief right now. I'm not trusting God. Like I had that awareness, and I immaturely expected myself to be able just to flick a switch and be able to transition immediately. It took me years. It actually took me years of process to reteach my heart, to renew even my mind, a Holy Spirit working in me, working in the way I would perceive situations and perceive different things, even perceiving my own emotions and not being afraid of what was going on inside of me, and giving, letting go, So I just feel like that discernment, first of all, is key. The self-awareness of what's going on inside of me, that's half the battle, if not more.
That's staying connected to God daily.
Not navel-gazing, not depression, I'm so terrible, I'm missing it, I'm a failure, because that's totally counterproductive. That will never grow you. We've not been asked to prune our own vines. Like, he's the master gardener. But we do partner with him, and he does prune us. Yeah. He prunes us back where we're overextended and putting our energies into stuff that we're not called to father ourselves,
Yes, at re-choosing him daily. And what's crazy is that dark season where you had to work out that connection to God. You probably look back at that season fondly.
I do.
You don't ever want it to happen again.
No.
But it's crazy how those things that actually are on the extreme are the things that really mark you and the things that really push you forward. Yeah. When Skylar, my son, had encephalitis, literally we could have lost him. What's
encephalitis? Is it swelling in the brain?
Yeah, it went through the spine. Extreme swelling. It was a crazy story. It's too much to get into now, but basically we could have lost him. And what had to get worked out in me during that time, I would never want to experience that again, but I actually look back at it fondly because God was faithful. Yeah. Because I got to grow my faith. Yeah. And it's that, really, I'm kind of a simpleton. I know there's crazy complex universe juice stuff. Like, the iPhones and airplanes and supernatural, But at the end of the day, literally 3 things I do every day. I check, is my heart pure? Am I really wanting, no matter what God wants? And there's a pure pursuit of him. Okay, I'm there. 2, whatever I'm encountering that I need an answer to, or I need a touch from God, or I need a perspective on, I give him access. I consider him. So pure heart, I consider him in everything I need. And then whatever I feel like he's saying, with this expectation of like, no, I'm designed to hear his voice. I'm not going to like teeter-totter back and forth. No, I'm designed to hear his voice. Whatever I feel like I hear him say, I do it.
Just do it.
Revelation's one thing. Obedience is completely different.
Oh, totally different.
You can get rocked all day long at school, in church, listening to podcasts, and you can have a revelation that makes your spirit leap. If you don't obey and actually take an action, it's meaningless. Yeah. And so literally in the micro, day to day, that's all God has taught me to do. Pure heart, I consider you, God. What are you saying? I do it.
Wow.
And it becomes this thing where it's like almost that's what he's more concerned about.
Yeah.
He's looking. Oh, I mean, I have kids, so I'm like, if I told Sydney, hey Sydney, I knew her heart was pure. She was asking me, Daddy, how do I do this thing?
Yeah.
And then she did what she thought I was saying, even if she was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I'd be like, if I was God, I would either change reality to make it right so she looked good,
Yeah.
or I would go, oh, don't cut the red wire, cut the green wire, or we all blow up. Or maybe she blows some stuff up, but really what it's more important to me is she's pure heart, considered me, and did what she thought I said. Man, God wants an army
that
of believers
so much louder
that do that.
Yes.
And so it's not as much, I think we're so concerned and we measure. God showed me too. I'm probably talking too much, sorry, but this is a podcast, so sorry. This is what you
good.
It was two God hands that showed. I was walking through Hebrews one day, and all of a sudden, I saw this. I wouldn't call it an open vision, but it stopped me in my tracks.
Reading through Hebrews?
Walking through. Oh, Hebrews is a coffee shop.
There you go.
Bad name.
You were in a vision walking through the book of Hebrews. That's beautiful.
There were two God hands, like wrinkly old, like Old Testament God hands.
Yeah.
I don't know why God's hands would be wrinkly, but and he was holding two block letters. One was the word adjustment, and the other word was measurement. And all of a sudden, he just went like this, and it disappeared. And I was like, and I knew it was significant. I was like, man, what was that? So I sat down, and I immediately began to just process, what is that? And the Lord began to tell me, he's like, Eric, you and tons of people in this environment measure. You see someone else popping, you see someone else manifesting a skill or a talent or an anointing, or you're doing something and you're just measuring. I'm not enough, or am I gonna be able to do it? Do people like me? Measure. But you're actually rarely adjusting.
Wow.
He's like, I don't care if you're getting it right. I want to know that you're trying to listen to me, and you're doing your best to adjust to my voice. And just do that. Adjust. Make a mistake. Adjust. Make a mistake. Adjust. And that's what he's looking for. He's like,
which is the
are
obedience.
You more concerned about being perfect and either doing it with me or without me, but your goal is perfection, or being in the, or getting the attention or getting the accolades, whatever it is? Or are you more concerned about hearing my voice? And that's what Jesus did. So in one moment, if you begin to adjust, 6 months later when you measure, you'll be miles ahead. And in that same season, God showed me, he said this in my ear, and he said, Jesus didn't reach his potential. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I was like, I'm definitely not gonna be able to preach that. I'm gonna get kicked out of churches. They're gonna definitely take the mic out of my hand. And I was like, what in the world? And he began to show me, he's like, no, Jesus didn't. We constantly are thinking about stewarding, like the parable of the talents. We should increase.
Yeah.
We should be connected to the purposes. And I think we go from glory to glory.
Yeah.
And I think we're supposed to manifest greatness on the earth.
Yeah.
But that is completely different than trying to reach what we think is our potential. Think about it.
Wow.
Jesus wasn't concerned about his potential. He was concerned about his assignment.
Wow.
He was concerned about the voice. My ear is bent to the Father. That's what I'm more concerned about. He could have done tons of things. Think about what Jesus had the potential to do.
Yeah. That's powerful.
What do you have the potential to do? Well, I can play drums. I can play tennis. I can lead people. I can speak. What am I supposed to be doing right now? And when your ear's bent to the Father and you're more concerned about being connected to him and bearing the fruit of your assignment in that season, then he's turning tables in one moment. He's allowing a whore to wash his feet in another moment.
Yeah.
He's healing thousands in another. He's leaving to go up the mountain when everyone thinks he should stay. You're not concerned about your potential. He could have been the physical king of the earth. He could have thrown fireworks up in the sky and looked real cool.
Dang.
What did he have the potential to do? No, he constantly just did. And so can you humble yourself enough to go, gosh, in this season, I'm a maintenance guy at this church because even though I know I could lead worship better than the worship leader, even though I know I could preach better than that preacher. And when you can steward faithfulness and have insight 20/20 in those moments when everyone else is going, your father, your coach, your bosses, you're not reaching your potential, you're not maximizing your potential.
Wow.
If you're connected to God, you don't have to worry
not even about
a
your
day about
potential.
favor
Yeah.
or connection
Yeah.
or destiny.
Yeah. Wow.
And in due time, he'll
Wow.
exalt you when you need to.
Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in the proper time.
Yeah.
That really does come back to trust, faithfulness, simple obedience. Like Galatians 3 and 4, with the who has bewitched you? Who has led you into another gospel where you think you need to do this thing yourself, is essentially what Paul is addressing, and brings in the ridiculous representation of Ishmael and Isaac. There's a son that was born. God promises Abraham, go look at the stars, count them. That's going to be what I do in your life. He's 90, 100 years old, no kids, no sign of the promise coming to fulfillment. So they think in their mind, well, we should probably get going on this. So he sleeps with his maidservant. Ishmael is created, son of a bondwoman, as it says. But and I feel like a lot of the time in our good effort, we, when God's promised Isaac, we produce our own thing. And I mean, the crazy thing is the Lord actually blessed Ishmael. The Lord used Ishmael. He's not restricted to not use those things. But I think the point is, and it's very clear in Galatians 4, we've not been called to what's bound and what we can do and manage of our own accord. We've been called to be sons of the free woman, sons of God, essentially, which is just so much, it's so much bigger.
That's powerful. And that's where the life and the fruit of your life happens.
Yes.
And it's crazy because you don't want to feel like God never actually gives you insight into what he really wants to happen, but so many times it is slightly different, or many times completely different. But he leads you on that path, and it's often it's so much better than what you could have ever imagined.
Totally.
It's powerful.
The journey of trust. I'll finish this last thought, and then I want to hear a little bit about Bethel music and what that world is like. The journey of trust is just to encourage people that it's not an overnight thing, and it's way deeper than just an emotional experience of trust. It really is a lifelong journey, and it's actually work. It's actually effort to, Jude 21, beloved, keep yourself in the love of God. Keep yourself there. That verse is strikes the fear of the Lord into my heart, because it implies you can actually remove yourself out of it. God will always love his, that's not in question. But my receptivity, my awareness of that love, of his goodness in my life, that is actually kind of my responsibility, and he will sovereignly move, and there's all sorts of different side factors there. But, even in, I believe it's in Colossians, Paul talks about strive to enter the grace of God. Strive to stay there. The only time Paul talks about striving is this whole, the law and striving to reconnect with God. That's done. That's over. That's 2,000 years ago, taken care of. There's no relational separation, but he actually exhorts us to strive to stay in the grace of God, which is a beautiful picture that it's actually a process. I so damaged myself at times with my own timeline of how long I thought I should learn trust in, or how long I thought I should be fully in faith and emotionally free. And it's not, those aren't the correct measurements. Like, I think the correct measurements are, again, like, did you do what God asked you to do today? Like, is your heart leaned in toward him? Like, God's not looking at our emotions and measuring our success. He's looking at what do we choose, even in face of emotion, even in face of whatever the circumstance that we're going through is. So I just feel like and oftentimes we have years and years. Like for me, I had 20 years at this point in my life, specifically with the anxiety, depression, 20 years of thinking, reasoning, perceiving in a certain way that was actually quite damaging, that actually wasn't really along the lines of trust and faith and kingdom thinking, that actually took a few years to unravel and rewrite those mental pathways and even physiologically, you know, like brain science says, and God overrides this stuff as well, but there's natural elements. Like brain science says it takes 21 days to create a new physical neurological connection in the brain. A minimum of 3 weeks of catching thinking, of no, I'm not going there, I'm going here. And that act of, oh, we're not going that way, we're going this way, that's work to me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Totally.
but it's not bad.
No.
It's not like that's me. I'm the steward of my heart. And God's not in charge of my mind. I am, as a sovereignly created being with delegated authority.
It's good.
Walking in partnership. So
Good. Awesome.
tell me about Bethel Music, man.
What do you want to know?
Bethel Music is ridiculous. It's a machine. It's blown up all over the world. Like everyone is singing Bethel. Like from your perspective, like what is God doing with Bethel Music as the movement? Tell me some like fun tour stories.
Okay.
Like all the dirty details. I just want to know everything.
Bethel Music is it's really a phenomenon. It's a miracle, really.
Yeah.
Because this level, quality, magnitude of, exporting music in the industry, basically, through Christian worship music that's infiltrating the global church, it's like you don't expect it to come out of a tiny town in Northern Cal where you can hardly get to.
In the middle of nowhere. Just so everyone knows, most people in California call Redding the armpit of California.
Yeah, for years it was poverty flats.
Yeah.
Termed poverty flats, but yet it's beautiful, and the mountains and the Sac River.
It is
and
gorgeous.
It's amazing what you begin to take on if you call yourself something. But for years now, many people in the city of Redding have begun to call it something better.
Yeah.
And it's changing.
Wow.
Even, the last few days, you driving around and me showing you some of the things you're like, you've only been gone for 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah,
or,
2 years.
Yeah, and just you're like, whoa, what's happening? And you see the fruit of different thinking.
Yeah.
And not just with Bethel Church, with
No,
many
it's
of
with
the
the city.
amazing people in the city government, city officials, the mayor. It's crazy. So, but yeah, it's, Bill has a phrase that he says, I'm just not going to change the subject on the presence of God, and it's going to be about bringing heaven to earth. And I think Bethel Music has its own version of that. And obviously Brian, being Bill's son, he's carried some of that similar DNA, and he and Jen have really just championed not changing the subject. Like, we want to write songs that are what we want the church to look like in 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
We want to write songs for the global church to sing.
Yeah.
We want to write songs that start infiltrating radio where, and you can hear now, like used to, there was no language about the presence. There was no language about heaven coming to earth. There was no language about miracles. And And now it's like you're hearing Holy Spirit being a record, a radio hit, and by the Torwalds, sung by Francesca Battistelli. And there's just the shift in language, and I'm not attributing it all to Bethel music, but it's definitely had a fingerprint on changing that. So it's just been amazing, and but not foregoing excellence. So you've got this connection to grassroots, to the local church, to doing what God wants before anything else. And I think that's masqueraded as, and we can't do things excellent. And so the church has been sort of 20 years behind. We complained for 10 years that it's the devil. And then finally we realize it's not. And then we copycat for the next 10. And then we find ourselves 20 years behind with crap music. And I think that's changing.
Yeah.
And we're pioneering, and we're walking and manifesting out of identity, literally, not just talking about it, but doing that and finding language in songs that is real and raw. And so it's fun. So
good. And you've been with Bethel Music for
4 years.
4 years now.
Yeah.
And your role in a nutshell.
So I've worn a few different hats, but I am really connected more to the artist relations, communication.
Okay.
And there is a pastoral role as well while we're on tour, and even back home. But really, and I've been the albums director, which is basically 250 different items that have to happen and get checked off between from ideation to street date in a 14-month period for an album. I managed that whole process and team for years, but now my focus is going more toward the artist development, artist management, holistically. And, being a multiplying effect for Brian and Jen and Joel, where they really trust me to connect to our key relationships in the music industry and in the global worship community, where, they can't be everywhere and at all times, but they trust that I've got the DNA. I understand and can represent them well. So
that's good.
I'm managing a lot of those kind of key relationships and communication and things as well.
That's really good.
Which are important. Without those, Brian and Jen host this event called Gather, which is like 125, 150 of the most influential people in Christian music worship, because they want to cross-pollinate and they want to cultivate a community. They don't, I think that's been really one of the biggest marks of our success, is that we're unafraid. We're not trying to build our own empire.
Yeah.
We're trying to partner and be impactful where we need to be, and then for everyone else to shine and be impactful where they need to be. And cultivating those relationships has made everyone stronger. Yeah. But the industry says, no, you need to go and make your amazing empire and become iconic dominate yourself. Yeah. Instead of, no, you give away to get more. Yeah. Yeah. So.
As you've been on tour, you'll always tour with Bethel Music.
Yeah.
Like in the past. Like every time they've toured in the last 4 years, you've been with them pretty much.
On a measure of them, we have a few different.
They tour a lot.
We have a few different people that can function in my role, and depending on the type of tour, the needs are different. But there's been a consistent.
Tell me, standout, you'll never forget moment, God moving on tour.
I mean, there are so many. I mean, every time you see the unity that happens with, 2 to 5, 10,000 people, and everyone just lining up and worshiping and praising, and the presence that comes in those moments, it's just undeniable. But I mean, even on this last tour, I think was in the UK this summer, we had a video team capture 2 miracles. You can see them on the Bethel Music Instagram and Facebook pages. But basically Sean Foyt and a few others at a particular moment in the service began to just go into some prophetic words and some words of knowledge and healing, and the cameras, literally, we got the audio of the word and the moment of their face when their ears that had been, closed. This one girl couldn't hear out of her right ear since she was 11, and he begins to prophesy, and her ear opens, and you see her face, like,
wow.
And another girl that had a migraine, and she had migraines. I think that was migraines.
Wow.
And that was called out. And in the moment, you literally see in the moment of, oh my gosh, the miracle happened.
Wow.
And that was just on this last tour.
Wow.
One of my favorites was, gosh, man, there's so many. But one of my favorite was, we were in a breakout session, which is a kind of a thing that it's an extra thing you can sign up for in the middle of the day before the worship night.
Okay.
And this one girl was in Kansas City. We were doing words of knowledge. We had some students with us, and this one girl had stood up, and we had given a testimony of when Chris had given a prophetic word to this lady and said that she was going to write songs, lead worship for thousands, and all this stuff. And we were basically teaching the group the difference between a word of knowledge and then a prophetic word. And sometimes a prophetic word that is foretelling, you may not be emotionally connected to. So sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't resonate with that prophetic word. Well, it's because it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And you don't know it's going to happen.
Right.
And this lady came up to Chris afterwards and said, that word must be wrong. I'm tone deaf, literally, clinically tone deaf. And I've never played an instrument. Well, anyway, the story is a year later, she comes back and finds Chris because they came to visit and says, you're not going to believe this. God healed me of my tone deafness, and I learned the guitar, and now I lead worship for a 1,000+ church. And so we were sharing that testimony, and someone had stood up and was tone deaf. And she had, so we began to pray for her. And one of the prophetic words was that we began to, that's what it was, is we began to prophesy over her. One of her favorite artists was Christine DeMarco, and this and that. And so we began to share that story when we found out that she was tone deaf. Well, all of a sudden, it comes over me like, I'm going to get this girl to sing.
Yeah. And
there was 400 people in this breakout session.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this could
totally fail.
This could be the worst. But I had just like, I don't care. I had that, I'm a 7, let's go.
Yeah.
And so I come up to this girl and I'm like, who's your favorite worship leader? And she goes, Christine DeMarco. And I said, okay, we're going to sing. You're going to sing in front of everyone. And she goes, right now? And I'm like, yeah, right now. And I'm like, it is well. That's a Christine song that she sang on the radio. Let's sing that one. So she begins to sing, and I put the mic up on her
It's
mouth.
just her.
Just her. And it is awful.
Yeah. Tone deaf awful.
Tone deaf awful. And she is clinically tone deaf.
Yeah.
But we had just released that testimony, and so I'm like, let's go for it. Let's see this in action. So she begins to sing, and it was awful. I mean, she changed keys 6 times in 20 seconds. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. And I don't want her to look embarrassed. And so all of a sudden, I don't know what to do. And I just go into her ear. And I begin to sing, it is well with my soul. And all of a sudden, she aligns.
Yeah.
And she begins to sing. And if you're clinically tone deaf, it doesn't matter if you're playing G, 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 G. They can't find it.
No.
But all of a sudden, supernaturally, she finds it. And she begins to sing, it is well with my soul. It is well. 400 people stand up. With my soul. And she's belting it out. And I stop, and I don't even have to sing anymore. It is well. And all of a sudden, she begins to just lead 400 people in worship, completely in tune and with amazing tone. And I just lose it. And so it goes to that moment of risk where you have faith and you do it. And then everyone has that moment of like, oh my gosh, this guy's an idiot and he shouldn't have done that. And she's all of a sudden now 400 people's faith rises and they know that there's a good God. And they know that there's a faith.
Oh my gosh. That's a pretty good moment. Wow. Oh my gosh, I feel the anointing. That's really powerful.
And I think, if you don't put yourself, the thing about life, God's always ready. Are you in an environment where there's intentionality? It's like, maybe I'm on tour and I'm tired and I don't want to have to go to another breakout. I've gone 12 days in a row. And I know that we're just doing the ministry. But you put yourself in moments where you have to rely on him.
Yeah.
And you have to activate yourself.
Wow.
And you choose to be intentional and then he shows up.
Wow.
If you don't have those moments, find him.
Wow.
Go sign up for street ministry. Go do something.
Come on.
I don't know.
Come on. Yeah.
Put yourself in the environment where you have to activate your faith.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually feel like there's healing available. I've never done this, and this is like the Sid Roth Christian TV. Go ahead, minister to the camera. Just give a word to the camera, brother. No, but I actually feel like there's healing on that for people listening. So we just release that right now. Father, I feel that we're so strong in my spirit. We release, Father, your presence and your goodness to manifest in people's bodies, to open ears, even musical healing where there has been roadblocks in creativity, where there's been maybe physical injuries that have prevented people from creativity and from music. God, I thank you. You're touching and meeting people in all of those places.
Yeah, I specifically see arthritis. There's someone or multiple people that have not been able to play the piano, the guitar.
Yeah.
Literally, it's rocked their body so hard that they cannot actually play the thing that they were created to play. And I just impart right now a faith for that healing, and it's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Fire.
We could do that for
we could
an hour.
Couldn't we?
Let's just do another one right after this.
Eric, so good, man. Before we wrap up and tell people where people can find you.
Funny story. We didn't do a funny story.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's on the way. So you need to tell me. You need to throw someone under the bus, literally, tour bus all over the country. You must have had some pretty humorous happenings.
Oh man, there are too many. There are too many to count. Too many to count. But we've woken up with someone literally screaming, banging on their inside of their bunk that they're getting stabbed or killed. We're having to wake them up 3:00 in the morning.
They're in just
and
night
then
terror
they
mode.
remember nothing the next day. But 13 people are just completely bamboozled in the middle of the night. What is going on? Is it? Brian sleepwalks. He pretty much gets up at least once every tour, which is hilarious. He sleeps with his bunk open now, his curtain open. Okay. Because he's fallen out of his bunk multiple times. I think one time he got into someone else's bunk randomly, which was funny. But one time I heard his curtain. I was on the one right above him. Okay. And I was asleep, but I was kind of in and out, and I heard this, his curtain open, and it startles me. So I peek out, and Brian had gotten out of his bunk, and he was going, and he was looking around for something, and then all of a sudden he realizes he was sleepwalking, wakes up, and then just kind of crawls back into his bunk. And I tell him the next day, and he's like,
no memory.
No memory. One time there was this red pair of women's underwear in the main lobby area on the ground. Uh-huh. And we all got out there, and Sarah Hendrickson starts whose underwear is that? And like, I think she thought it was mine. And so she starts going in like, hey, Eric, don't leave your underwear. And she's like, is it yours? And like mid-sentence, you can see some shift happen in her face, and she realizes they're hers.
Oh my gosh.
And she has no idea how they got there, but she's shredding into other people. So I love you, Sarah Henderson. But that was one of the funniest moments ever, when she feels the horror and shock
The moment of
that
like,
she's tearing into other people about their, and they're literally her.
I am the problem.
Yeah, and beautiful red panties on the bus floor. That was fun.
There you go.
Gosh, I mean, there's many.
You guys spend how many like hours upon hours? You drive like all night.
Yeah.
You stay on the bus, sleep on the bus, eat on the bus. Is anything ever like blown up or spilled all over the place, or like has anyone ever fallen over? Or...
Oh gosh, yeah, people have literally fallen out of bunks. It's from the third one. We've had someone fall out, but you're not supposed to go number 2 in the bus.
You're not allowed to number 2.
And we've had a few instances where
That the rule's been
I don't know if someone
trespassed.
forgot, if they were sleepwalking. I think Braden
Sleepwalking
one time when he was
number
on it,
2.
and we had to like stop the bus to grab that out. Because
you're on
Brian
2.
literally had to go into the bus collecting part and grab some of Braden's poo out once. So that was fun.
Because it smelled that bad.
No, just because you have to get it out.
Because you got to get it out.
So that's pretty funny. But yeah, stuff is flown off the counters and spilt, and what else? I mean,
Have the kids ever come with you on tour?
mine haven't.
Okay.
But we did do a Bethel Music Kids tour over
Yeah.
Christmas a couple years ago,
Yeah.
which was fun.
Yeah.
But we weren't in a bus sleeping overnight. But
Okay.
yeah, it's fun. But we all get along.
Yeah.
And we know when to go get space. But it's a trip, man. It's so fun.
So good.
We love it.
Oh my gosh.
It's great.
So how can people find you, man?
Internet. Let's
The
go.
internet answers
Let's go.
all.
We might have to edit this part. This is clunky. Yeah, I mean, Kerrville Kid is my handle on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm from Kerrville.
Okay.
I'm a kid. Kerrville Kid.
Obviously.
So Kerrville, Texas, I grew up in.
Okay.
But I have a band, Amber Nation.
Yep.
And so you can find us at Amber Nation _official on Instagram.
Okay. I'll link that up.
Yeah, and then blackboxsoundstage@gmail.com is a place where people can submit their videos for the Black Box events that we do. And then Black Box Soundstage is our IG handle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Looking
love
for
it.
I'm building the fathering. I don't know what I'm going to call stuff, but this whole, artist development arm that I want to have in the city, is being developed.
Yes.
And so, it's what's crazy about Reading is and I don't want this to just be connected to the school. I really want it to be a city
Yes.
initiative.
Yes.
But we are getting pumped in every year with 1,500 new students, and out of those 1,500, at least, I would say a low estimate is 40% of those students are creatively bent. Out of that 40%, there's probably 20% that are very good at whatever
Gold
they
and
do.
ready to
not just at worship, and then I would say, 5% of those people could be world class, and there's not an identification process right now.
Right.
If you don't pop in worship or make a team,
Right.
there's really no outlet for you.
Which
and
like
you'll
that
end up slipping
opportunity,
through the cracks.
that opportunity is like 0.3%
Yeah.
chance,
Yeah.
an opportunity of like that 2,000 student base, 0.3% probably
Right.
have opportunity to get
With
activated.
a similar mindset and grid for life and kingdom and identity. And so
Yeah.
our goal is to begin to identify
Yeah.
those talented, anointed people that need to infiltrate hip hop or jazz or singer-songwriter. That could be, a folk music
Yeah.
star. And and not for fame, but for influence and
Yeah.
for the kingdom, and
Yeah.
literally like have an army, a massive army of artists
Yes.
released and launched out of Reading. So it's a kind of a three-pronged: discover, develop,
Yes.
and launch. And so it's, identifying those artists and then really being able to develop them and then record them, launch them, market them. And so I want to build a team to do that in Reading.
And this studio, you'll have rental space for people to come record their own albums, their own songs.
Yeah, we'll have
That whole
we'll have our own. My partner Luke Randolph, and he'll be producing and engineering, and then anyone who wants to come in and that makes sense relationally, and we're just gonna go for it.
get him in here.
Yeah,
It's amazing, man. Thanks for doing this.
you bet. That was awesome.
Love you, man.
You too.
Thank you.
And how am I supposed to wear these old clothes when you made me brand new? They didn't fit anymore. Yeah.